welcome to Boxy Outdoors. Guys, this video we're going this morning to Paul's Trapping Supply House. Every year he has a get-together for like a trapping seminar. It's for the kids. You'll see Kids for Catches, Linda White and her husband Michael. They're usually there from Sawmill Creek's Baits. As well. Hey, come along and hopefully we get a little bit of footage and Duke's cabin and this.
Make sure you sign our boards. We always give away boards.
That's Mike, who's behind the counter. Hey Mike, there you are. He's the owner. I just want to say thank you for you guys for all your patience. But the shop's still going to be here for a year until Mike gets plans ready to move it. I just want to let everybody know I did sell it due to my health issues that I'm having. But I'll still be highly involved with the shop and the Kids for Catches program. Today we're going to have Joe McCarl doing Coyote, Linda doing Fox, Mike White doing Fisher, and Mike's going to do a Coon demo. Then we're going to go back here, get something to eat, and then everybody do a prizes. So, I want to thank all the parents for bringing the kids. Mike, anything to say?
Thank you all for coming. I hope you have a good time today and continue traditions here and check out the shop afterwards and have a good time today. I think everybody can take a little bit of something away from today.
I like telling new people there's only two things you really need to get exactly right. The rest of the stuff you can get away with a few things on and still catch. But the first thing is location. And that's something that's really, can't hardly teach somebody. That comes from experiences. You know, when you're looking at a place like this, there's a lot of places where we turned in off that edge. You could have a setting there. This is a good place because you got you get this brush row tying in with another logging road. And when you get on a new place, I'd say the best thing you can do is set up one set in all them places till you find the right place. Because there's one place on each piece of property that's better than everywhere else. There's several places you'll catch one or two animals, but there's one place you'll catch everything that walks through that place. And sometimes that's hard to find. When you get a first snow in the fall, try to get out and look around and see where everything's going. That'll tell you a lot. Now later in the winter ain't going to tell you much because they change their habits from the fall when you're trapping. But getting out and following a set of tracks around for half a day will teach you more than any person can teach you about what the animal's doing and where he's going. But the first thing is, like I said, is location. You got to be where they're at. And the second thing you got to get right, you got to get that trap bedded solid. Most time when things are dug up, people think they got dirty traps. 99% of the time it's not a dirty trap. 99% of the time it's because the trap wasn't bedded and the animal fell to rock where he stepped on the edge of it. That's why he dug it up, or that's why he wouldn't work it. So you have to get the trap bedded. Other than that, you can make some mistakes. I mean, there's no magic lure, magic bait. Some are better than others, don't get me wrong. But if you're not set on location and have that trap bedded solid, you're just not going to catch it. I don't care how good your lure or bait is. Most coyotes won't go from here to the edge of that cornfield to work a shot. I mean, you got to be set where they're walking. Unless they're awful hungry, and the only time they're that hungry, usually the weather conditions are so bad you can't hardly keep a trap working anyway. So, like I said, those are the two things to really work on: getting the trap set in the right place and getting it good and solid in the ground. I'm going to probably show you a dirt hole today. If I got time, I'll show you a flat set too, but a dirt hole set probably catches 95% of the fur as far as when it comes to coyotes and fox. You'll get a lot in flat sets and stuff too, but that dirt hole is a standby. If you have enough traps to make 2 sets, it's always a good idea if you're on a good location. Put a dirt hole set in, which is a visual type of set, and then put a flat set in for the ones that don't want to work it. If you're doing that in a location, try to put your flat set where it'll work best with the wind, because there's no visual to it at all. The animal has to smell it to work it. A lot of times if I'm on a roadway, if I can, I'll put the flat set dead center in the middle of the road so the tractors and stuff don't run over it. You know, they straddle the trap when they're going up and down the road, and then I'll put the dirt hole off the edge because that's a visual that they can see and they can work off of it. I guess we can get started. If anybody has any questions, just interrupt me and ask me anytime. Control. And I try to be as clean as I can. I don't get as crazy about it as I used to, because the animal knows you've been there. The only thing I'm going to say is if you leave too much stink around there, it's going to make 3rd and 4th night catches instead of 1st night catches. The quicker you get in and out of there, the less stink you leave around there, you're going to improve your 1st night catches by doing that. But that being said, I don't care how clean you are, they know you've been there. The biggest thing is you don't want any kind of stink on your trap. You don't want no lure, no bait, no blood, anything like that on your traps. With coyotes, you don't want to overuse bait and lure, but the more different smells you get, the better off you are. You know, I'm not afraid to use 3 different lures and a bait at a set. You like to have a lot of, curiosity is a big thing. It's a way bigger thing than hunting when it comes to these animals. On the more rough areas. You want it blended in good? Now, here's the set you definitely want fresh bait, because the bait's going to be right up level with the ground, and if you got something that stinks, they're going to roll in it, guaranteed. So you want a fresh bait. These 2 holes on the outside, I fill right up level to the top with bait. A good fresh bait. Center hole, I put some sort of gland lure. I use a lot of bobcat yarn and bobcat gland for the simple fact that deer are not quite as attracted to it. I mean, everything loves red fox yarn and red fox gland, but if you got a lot of deer, you're going to have a lot of traps fired. I don't know what it is about it, but they love red fox yarn. So I kind of stay away from it. I go with the bobcat yarn and the bobcat gland. Put some gland lure in this center hole, bait, and then this hole back here, something different, some kind of curiosity lure. You know? And the only thing this hole's doing, or if I got scat, when I'm catching animals on one property, I take the scat and I mark it, put it in jugs, and use it on another property. That's some of the best attractor you can get. Is instead of that hole, you could put a dropping from another coyote or fox and put a little urine. You know, it helps make a walkthrough. Plus, if they want to work this thing from back here and dig at the holes and stuff, they're going to step across and smell this. It just gets their feet moving. You can't have too many holes. You know, another variation of this set is what they call a compass set, where they put holes around the compass. You know, it's the same idea.
So a lot of my demo this gentleman pretty much did, because there are 3 people who really have taught me a lot in this industry. One of them obviously being my husband, the other one being Joe McCarl, and then Mark Zager. And a lot of my sets are a variation of what I've learned from the 3 of them. So anyways, I probably should tell you who I am. Sorry. My name is Linda White. A lot of people in the industry know me as Trapping Girl. I own a business called Trapping Girl, so that's the reason why. So a lot of my sets have to do with the fact that I know that I have animals in the area that are being used to being tracked. And that's why I kind of do what I do. When I first started trapping, I am not a lifelong trapper. I actually, when I met my husband, he had said to me that he was a hunter, a fisherman, and a trapper, and if I couldn't get on board, then we probably should stop right now. The hunting thing, was a daddy's girl. My dad hunted. I wanted to go out hunting with him. I went out, shot a squirrel, cried, made him bury it in the backyard, and that was pretty much the end of hunting for me. My dad was like, we're not doing that with a deer. The fishing thing, had done it all my life. Trapping, I literally thought he was catching like mice and rats and those kind of things. And I was like, that's a weird hobby, but hey, cool, whatever. I went home. My best friend at the time was a bleeding heart, you know, anti anything that pretty much was Republican. So I saw every anti video that was out there. Like, I saw it all. And I thought to myself, there is no way this guy's going to bury me in his backyard or keep me in the basement. So I don't think he's a serial killer, but I want to see what he's doing. So I went out. The biggest thing that got me involved is his passion. If you've ever heard, you know, like, or been in a room with somebody who is really strongly passionate about something, like, you're excited and you want to go out and do it and you don't even know what you're doing. Like, all right, let's do this. He answered all of my questions, everything and anything that I wanted to know. And so I was like, hey, I want to give this a go. I became his pack mule for a little while. It was always, hold this, take this. And then I decided, you know what, I didn't want to take this anymore. I was going to do it on my own. So he packed a bag for me, said, okay, Linda, let's go. This bag weighed like 50 pounds. I got to my first set and I said, this is stupid. I don't want to do it anymore. So I had to really, as a woman, kind of figure out what I really needed and what I didn't. Like, Joe's got that auger and that's great for him. As a woman, that's a little bit much for me to be carrying around. It adds weight. So I am very simple. Everything that I do is less equipment as possible and very, very simple. First thing is I use a Bridger dogless, number 2. It is modified to help with the paws. If you buy the fully modified ones, we take off these 2 little coils that go right here. So we don't have a 4 coil. I use a 2 coil trap. For fox, you don't really need a 4 coil. It's kind of overkill. And for me, it's just extra pressure to push down. My trap is pink. Yes, I like the color pink, but that's not why my trap is pink. I spray paint my traps because I have little legs. It was coming to the point where my husband would get all the way to his trap and be halfway back before I was even halfway there. That's kind of annoying when he's yelling at you, like, hurry up, Linda, let's go.
Linda has 1 speed and is not very fast.
It's that. So this trap I can see with a pair of binoculars quite a ways. You know, if this pops up, if it's sprung, I don't have that issue also of if I want to get up close and check my trap. You know, Joe was saying about kind of trying to keep scent to a minimum. I don't have to be right on top of my area every time. And that's the main reason why I spray paint. Joe was talking about cookie cutters. I have a cookie cutter. He's absolutely right. Number 1 mistake that you can make is not having your trap bed solid. When I first started trapping, I was like, oh, okay, no problem, and start digging out my trap bed. And it would cut bigger and bigger and bigger, and then I'd have to try to fill that all in or move it around enough to get it nice and solid, and I was really struggling with that. So I got a cookie cutter made. If you notice that the levers are not in here, it's just the jaws, the outline of the jaws. And you'll see whenever I make my set why that is and how that helps me in the area that I'm in. You know, Joe's down south where he doesn't have to deal with a lot of the snow that we do, and I'm mainly trapping in New York. Now we go to different places, but mainly where I'm at is in New York. All right, so I'm going to show you a couple different sets that I do. One is a pipe set, and I kind of modify it a little bit. Like I said, I've learned a lot from that gentleman right there Mark Zeiger, and my husband. So everything that I do is a modification. And like Joe said at the very beginning, find what works for you. Take what somebody says and really kind of say, okay, you know, is this really the best for me? If it is, but I'd rather do maybe a little extra here or there, don't be afraid to do it. You don't have to do exactly what anybody tells you. This is your thing, and that's what makes it fun too. So if we were here, I would probably pick this little tuft of grass that's right in here, and I'm gonna stick my pipe in. Now, like I said, we have a lot of trappers that are in our area, so I tend to set back just a little bit. I know there's a lot of guys who are up real close. You know, I probably set about 10 inches, I'd say, from my pipe. And the reason why is when I was setting up closer, I was having a lot of investigations, but they would come in and I would catch them night 3 or 4, not night 1 or 2. They'd come in, check it out, and then they'd be back. Well, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'd rather catch them night 1 and 2. So I moved my trap back a little bit, and I used this cookie cutter as a nice little outline. So I use setters. I know that all you manly men probably don't need them, but I'm gonna tell you, these things are super nice, and when you have arthritis or anything else, it's gonna allow you to set that trap pretty easy. All I had to do was push it down, stick my knee on the one side, and I had a whole hand free to do whatever I want. I use a dogless trap. It's easier for me, personally. I'm not playing around with the dog. I don't have to have anything else extra that I might have to fix. And just like Joe said, you know, you find what works for you. Every trap that I put in the ground is this trap right here. It has a night latch. You can hear it click. So I'm gonna put my bait back here in the pipe. And then I'm going to add a curiosity lure in one hole and a gland lure in the other. You know, it keeps their feet moving. It keeps them at your set as long as possible. It allows me, I think, in my opinion, it allows me to be able to get them farther, like I said, with it being farther back, it allows them to, anybody that was maybe a little shy or whatnot, they get a front foot catch. If I've had ones before that maybe came in at an angle, and because I have those holes, they worked their feet, and I catch them from a back foot catch with it back there.
Valley, New York. I own Sawmill Creek Baits and Lures. Your laws here are a little bit different on fisher than mine, actually quite a lot different. Pennsylvania's a trophy state, you're allowed one of everything. I personally can catch as many fisher as I want, but I only have 6 days to do it. You guys have what, like 14 days or something for a fisher season? The biggest thing is with fisher is to find them. If you can find fisher, they're pretty easy to catch. They're not scared of anything. They're not scared of you. I've had them walk underneath tree stands. They don't care you're up there. They don't care about anything. They're not scared. If they were 30, 35 pounds, I'd probably stay out of the woods. I mean, if you guys have ever, how many of you have ever caught a fisher? In a foothold? How mad was he when you got there?
Oh, he never stopped moving. Never stopped.
They're like,
constantly chewed the log apart while I stood there.
they're like a Tasmanian devil.
Yeah.
They just, you know, your kids are too young to remember a Tasmanian devil. I prefer them dead.
Yeah.
Less fuss, less muss. I don't, I'd like that with everything. Whether you don't, I used to run these boxes all the time for coons when coon prices were high. Because they're dead. And they're inside, usually inside the box, so they're dry. There's no blood, there's nothing. It's quick, it's easy, and you keep moving. So, I run these boxes, and I run 220 conibears. or in 160s. Depends on the sets and the boxes. I get better results with 160s than I do 220s. I know you guys can't do this here, so I'm going to keep this really brief and to the point. You guys' conibear laws are really tricky down here.
They can do it in a waterway, right?
Well, it depends on your definition of waterway. Is it in the water or is it inside the high water mark? And from everybody I've talked to, it depends on the game warden.
Yes.
But I just run
watermark.
back of this box. See back here, I put a 3-inch drywall screw back there. Big chunk of beaver meat. If it ain't bigger than my fist, I don't want it. You want, well, if they're going to go in that box, you want it to go in there. You know, you're not going to stop at McDonald's for one French fry. You're stopping there for the whole meal. You want it, whatever's in that box, you want it to be worth their time to go in there, go after. Whether you're using the conibear or foothold. You put that on there. If you don't use that drywall screw, what happens in a lot of the areas around me is we have a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but we have a good amount of weasels and rats in the woods. They go in that box, they grab a hold of that beaver meat, they pull it out. What ends up happening is you end up with a chunk of beaver meat stuck in your trap and you didn't catch the weasel. You know, if any of you have caught weasels, you know how small and skinny they are. So when they pull that out, it doesn't catch them. Once in a great while, you'll get them too. But generally, all you end up with is that. So like I said, I'll keep this brief because I know you guys can't. I just pinch them in just like that. I use a cable, quick link, tie off to a tree, and I'm down the road. One box, one location. If I'm in a good location, I might drop one of these boxes maybe every quarter of a mile. Where? I set, it's just like anything else, you set edges. I set the edges of, if I have some areas that have been old clear cut and they transition into a pine forest or old growth forest, you want overhead cover, overhead canopy, but them edges you set on, use your winds, you know, I mean, if you're in this situation, if this was an old clear cut and that was woods, perfect. You're gonna set on this edge, let the wind carry your lure. Joe talked about you're not pulling coyotes and fox very far, if at all. Fisher you can, good skunky lure, and you can get them to come and investigate it. I run the same traps Linda does, because then if I run out of traps or she runs out of traps, I'm not above using a pink trap if I had to. And like Joe said, everything's the same. Every foothold we put in the ground is a bridge or two dogless. New York says we have to be 2 3/4 inches inside jaw spread on anything on land, and these are 2 3/4. I think they're like a 16th under. I use screens too. You can see obviously this is the way I popped it out of the ground last year. I'm not using pink setters.
I think those were red.
Were they?
Those ones were.
I'm colorblind, by the way, so it's close enough. So I do these demos all over the place, different states, different conventions. And I've had people say to me, because I'm going to tell you, build yourself some of these boxes. You can build them any size you want. I have to have this little plate on the front because in New York, for me to run this, I have to have an opening that's less than 6 inches. So you would, if doing this, you wouldn't need this plate. I do have some that are busted off or they've broken up. The bears wreak havoc on these things when they got a big chunk of beaver meat in the back. We have a lot of bears around. I'm an advocate for using this because once again, it's quick and simple. You know, guys will say, well, I can build a cubby. Sure, build a cubby. I'll throw this on the ground and have my set done before you even gather up enough sticks to build your cubby. Like I said, it's all about getting in, getting out, going down the road. More sets. Fisher trapping's like mink trapping. If any of you guys mink trap, the more sets you can get out, the more area you can cover, the better chance you have of catching. So, I have a cookie cutter too. Tom Stalker. If anybody's familiar with who Tom Stalker is, he's out in upstate New York. As far as I'm concerned, Tom makes some of the best tools on the market. Hammer came from him. It's taken a lot of abuse. It's the handle's starting to come apart. I'll give him the plug because, like I said, Tom builds tools that are very well made. You're gonna pay for them. They are not cheap by any means, but you get what you pay for. I set this. I always get asked where I put this in a situation like this because I have basically a pre-built cubby. I'm not worried about so much right now where this is going. I'm gonna make this wherever I want, and then I can adjust this later. I'm doing the same thing Linda is. I wonder where she got it from.
Or where you got it from.
Thank you. There you go.
Oh.
I'm glad somebody's on my side.
We know whose team you're on. She's way prettier than I am.
I ain't
So
that old yet.
here's the difference. Okay. If I'm running footholds in the woods for Fisher, I am not gonna try to drive a 15-inch wolf fang in the ground in the woods, especially not in Western New York. We are full of tons and tons of rock. You're driving into roots. Even if you get it in, you're not getting it back out. So much easier to walk in the woods, toss that over, make your set. As long as that's pretty solid right there. You don't need to be as concerned with a Fisher as you do a fox or a coyote. They don't care. The only reason I'm wearing gloves is just because I'm messing with this stuff. Most of the time Fisher trapping, I don't even wear gloves unless it's for protecting my hands. It's definitely not for scent control. They could care less about your scent. And then I just throw a screen over it. And then if I'm out in the woods, I'm just gonna gather up a bunch of leaves, whatever's there. And we're gonna cover this up. And then you grab some other leaves, throw a little bit over your chain.
You got your footholds. And footholds can be, you can put them kind of like a dirt hole set if need be, but for the most part for coons on these trails and stuff, I just lay mine off, just slightly off center, left or right. There's a little log or something, looks like an animal's going to jump over it like this. Set you one here, set you one back here. You're going to get them on the approach or on the jump over, one way or the other. You just set your footholds right down in there. Again, I got cables attached to these ones. You can use the stake. Just get that sucker set and stake her down right there. And my coon sets I don't bury. I just leave them flat right on the ground. I don't do no prep work. But again, I'm using a lot of the trails. I do a lot of trapping in the woods, marshes, swamps, waterways. When I go out, I trap for everything. If it's in season on my lines, I got traps out for all of them. Because I got to go in and walk my properties. I don't have the luxuries of driving around on a four-wheeler and out of my truck. So I got to hike a lot of stuff in, so I got to think smart. And I'm usually constantly just adding to my line every day that I go out. Oh, that's a nice spot, mink's coming in. So I remember in 2 days, take a few mink traps, throw them in. Just constantly going at it. Coons are fun and easy. They've got to be taken out. They carry a lot of diseases. And with the fur market being the way that it is, trappers are falling out, not trapping. But remember the coon and the possums, again, big turkey, egg getters, but lots of diseases that they carry that are going to start passing over and having human and human-animal conflicts. Your dogs, your cats are going to start seeing a rise and getting rabies because there's going to be a lot more rabid. Coons out there, populations get too high, they start getting another disease called distemper. It has similar, and your dogs and cats can get it. So keep after the coon, keep going at them. You can also use your drags out in these fields. That's kind of heavy duty, that's more for fox, but it's definitely going to hold a coon there. Again, Mike demonstrated how to use it. You just set your trap, uncoil your chain, and throw it away. Throw it off in the woods already. They're going to run around. Water sets, you find lots of natural cubbies along the edges of the creeks and stuff, just like anything else. Set right in front of it. Set in that water, that little ledge that's only a couple inches deep, an undercut of the bank that it's high enough that the coons can be walking underneath. They'll walk right through that water looking for stuff. Little holes. You punch your hole right in the bank in there, put a little bit of bait, lure in there. Set your foothold just right under the water, right underneath the bit off to the side, like I said. I don't know. Coons are pretty easy. You set just about anywhere for a coon. Again, all of it comes down to knowing the critters are there. You have to have the sign. It's not as crucial, like I said, with them guys. You can lay a flat trap just sitting on the ground. They stumble right on through them. They don't care. And one way to surely catch them is go put a canine set out again, because they will be in it.
When we trap the farms, we'll put dog-proof traps
Like I
coming
just
to our
trapped
canine
here.
sets, because then at least maybe they'll get in the dog-proof first instead of the canine.
You walk up and down here and you find them trails. Her set's here. She's probably going to put a DP back in there to try and catch them coons. There's probably there should be a coordinating path right behind them, setting up right over there. You do a couple feet, 25, 50 feet up to each direction, and look for them trails, throw them out, especially if you're canine trapping, throw your DPs out or specific sets you're trying to get your coon caught up in first.
All right.
Any more? Yeah, we got 2 more coming. Come around this side and we'll squish you over here.
I don't know if they can get their fishing tape. Somebody get the can.
Yeah, these 2 little ones. Hey, everybody say cheese! That was
A group of just like Paul and Carol trappers that get together and collectively donate, whether it's monetary funds, baits, lures, old used traps, all of those things. They somehow get dropped off at my door, and I distributed them out throughout the country. And there's a lot of shop owners, just like whenever I met Paul and Carol, who are trying to get kids involved in trapping, who are trying to do what they can, but these things cost money, just like the porta potty, the food, giveaways, all of that, those things cost money. So we got this organization together, and I think last year we ended up helping over 1,000 kids get something in their hands to help them trap it. Unfortunately, a lot of trappers these days are old, burly men. I hate to say it that way, but they are. And if we don't get kids involved, then eventually those antis are going to win, because you're not going to have enough people participating in the sport. So it's really important to, if you ever go to a convention and you see maybe a Kids for Catches donation bucket, or if you have some old traps that you're like, hey, you know what, I just bought all these new MV550s, so I'm not using these anymore, donate them, because this is where they come to. And you'll see when the kids get their buckets, they're getting information, they're getting baits, lures that they can use, they're getting traps, things that is going to allow them to start. I think that's a big thing. Whenever they come to events like this, it's great, the information that you get from them, the instructors. But if you don't go home with anything, sometimes mom or dad have never been trapping before and they don't want to put in that expense. But if they go home with something in their hands, there's more likely that they're going to say, okay, let's go set this. So organizations like this is really important. If you need anything, any other information about it, you can get a hold of me. You can get a hold of Paul, Carol, Mike, that has taken over. He's going to start doing a big portion of this. So just to let you know, I really appreciate you all being here. And I guess, oh, hey, Mike. So we always have the kids sign a board every year, and it gets to go to somebody special. And this year is going to Mike. We appreciate last year. It's kind of funny. He took off running whenever we said about the whole Kids for Catches program, and he was like, "Hey, we're gonna do demos in New York, and we're gonna do demos here, and we're gonna do," like, he took it off running, and it was absolutely fantastic. And because of his efforts, actually, we got enough donations that the porta potty was taken care of. And that's fantastic. So when you go to the bathroom, they play.
Great job, Mike.
And also, our last board, the very first year, they had a board that was all signed and it's still in the shop, and unfortunately they're passing the torch to Mike. But this year it goes to Carol and Paul, and for all their years of service to even put this event together to begin with. So I appreciate it. And then let's hand out our buckets. Then you guys are free to leave.
Start with the little kids first.